I'd like to thank all of you for being here today, and I'd also like to thank each of you for taking the time to stand together, united in the spirit of courage, to defend liberty by shining light upon the corrupt and immoral activities of an institution that lies at the very core of the destruction of our natural rights and freedoms. I commend and respect each of you for your courage and commitment to such a noble cause. The great teacher and philosopher Vernon Howard once said, "Human sickness is so severe that few can bear to look at it, but those who do look at it will become well." With this in mind, let us now bravely take a look at the sickness. They are aggressive and callous and show an abnormal lack of conscience and empathy. They are cunning and extremely adept at manipulating others. They engage in strongly amoral, often criminal conduct. They take what they want and do as they please. They possess a deceptive ability to appear outwardly benevolent and can behave in superficially charming ways to hide their purely selfish motives. They use intimidation and, if necessary, violence to control others and to satisfy their own needs. They are willing to intentionally violate the basic inherent human rights of others. They do not experience or express any sense of guilt or remorse for the harm their actions have caused to others, but instead they rationalize their behavior, blame someone else, or deny it outright. They view the feelings and desires of their fellow beings with utter contemptuousness. They lie pathologically and are willing to say anything without any concern for accuracy or truth in order to advance their own hidden agendas. They have a severely distorted sense of the consequences of their own actions. They display a total failure to accept any responsibility for their own parasitic, socially irresponsible ways. Because of their utter contempt for their fellow human beings, they believe that they will never be brought to justice for their criminal behavior. They have been described by many as predators of their own species, for they lack the very qualities that allow human beings to live in social harmony. What I just read does indeed perfectly describe the characteristics, attitudes, and behaviors of the owners and directors of this privately owned central banking cartel that we call the Federal Reserve System. However, what I just read to you was not originally written to describe the Federal Reserve specifically. It was a list comprised by modern clinical psychologists to describe the pathological mental condition known as psychopathy. In other words, it was a list of the personality traits of psychopaths. The condition of psychopathy is at the very root of the crisis in which the human species finds itself in our current times, and it is more prevalent than most of us would prefer to admit. The reason for this is not human nature, as some would mislead you to believe. The reason for this is that psychopathy is not just a psychological disorder. It is also a learned behavior and a communicable disease. It is a virus that has infected the collective body of humanity. My own spiritual journey and my personal quest to understand as much as possible about the workings of the human psyche have led me to study this phenomenon in great detail over the course of many years. And today I would like to share with you a few basic insights I've discovered with respect to how psychopaths in general, and specifically psychopathic institutions such as the Fed, are able to hoodwink the general public and get away with their abusive and immoral behavior almost entirely unchecked. One of the greatest skills of psychopaths is their ability to feign normal human emotions and empathy. This enables them to remain well hidden or occulted in the communities in which they operate. We all know that good works are done in the light of day for all to see. In contrast, the work of psychopaths is always done, and indeed it must be done under the cover of darkness. For once enough light is cast in their direction, enabling people to become wise to their ways, psychopaths always scatter. Psychopaths are extremely adept at manipulating others into thinking that the communities in which they exist could never survive without them, that they somehow perform a vital and necessary service, and that if they were ever to be exposed and routed out, that total chaos would result. To reinforce this untrue notion that is based upon fear and dependency, psychopaths will create crises in their own communities. And once a chaotic reaction has been invoked, they then step in to pose as the savior by offering self-serving solutions for the very problems which they initiated. Psychopaths have one overall objective, and that is ultimately to make others feel as fearful, as miserable, and as empty as they do. To that aim, their greatest weapon is the propagation of their own twisted worldview, one that is wholly based in fear, lack, greed, separation, and control. In other words, they fool others into thinking that the only way to get by in life is to be like them, to become like the psychopath. They get us to buy into their mindset and their way of seeing the world and each other. And by any other name that you may wish to call that, I call it what it really is: mind control. And most of us fall for it. We become like them when we try to control the actions of others for our own gain, when we worship money, greed, and selfishness, when we remain unread and uneducated in a world of unimaginable wealth of information and information flow, when we refuse to educate ourselves or our young with respect to higher moral paths in life, yet continue to teach our young that monetary wealth is the main indicator of self-worth. When, through our fear and ignorance, some of us are willing to step on the natural, inherent rights of other people just because we've been given orders to follow and a paycheck to do it. Or when we are willing to go off to fight in wars that are based in the policies of imperialism, preemptive aggression, and the theft of natural resources from sovereign nation states. It may not be popular, and some of us may not like to hear it, but the truth is that as a whole, we, the people of this once free nation, are the enablers of the very psychopaths that dominate and control us. Many of us have become totally callous to the usurpation of the natural rights of other human beings, and that is why this silent war of control and aggression against human freedom has been marching forward, largely unopposed. Make no mistake, and do not be deceived about it. The psychopathic institutions at the highest, or should I say the lowest levels of our society, have done a very good job at all of the things they do best. But it doesn't have to be this way. You see, I disagree with most psychologists' conclusions that there is no treatment for the condition of psychopathy. There is a solution, and the solution is each and every one of us who is standing here today. For you see, we are the immune system response for this virus that has infected the minds and hearts of human beings. And we are here to bring healing to the diseased condition of our nation and our world. The prescriptions for healing this sickness are recognition, respect, responsibility, and reconciliation. Recognition means to become aware by searching. Many, many more people need to start learning as much as possible about what the Federal Reserve is and how its activities are currently holding direct influence over their lives. If we remain so ignorant and naive as a people that we cannot even conceive of this institution's psychopathic mentality, we shall collectively remain powerless to defend ourselves and our freedom against it. If we can develop the will to look at the sickness, and once it has been recognized, all those who are supporting this monstrous financial and moral deception by agreeing to work for it or with it in any way need to develop true respect. The word respect simply means to look at again. And what these individuals must take a second look at is themselves and what they have willingly allowed themselves to be used for. They must specifically ask themselves and answer honestly the question, am I really doing the right thing? Only self-respect can help us to develop true responsibility, which is our ability to respond in the correct moral ways to any problem that may be facing us. Finally, the word reconciliation simply means to move toward each other again. We must reverse our movement toward separation and come back together right now to create the collective courage to withdraw from the poisonous influence that such psychopathic institutions currently hold over our own minds and our own hearts. And it is that simple. That is how psychopaths and their behaviors are contained. By refusing to be like them in any way. By refusing to help them in their callous selfish aims, no matter what self-serving rewards may be offered. By recognizing that there is a better way to treat each other and to live among each other in truth, in love, and in true freedom. To do this, we must let go of our fear of lack, our fear of losing control, our fear of the unknown, and our fear of the uncharted territory we call the human future. In the final equation, there is no one stopping us but ourselves. In closing, I know that I don't just speak for myself when I say, let's recognize what we must do. Let's respect ourselves and each other. Let's develop true responsibility. Let's reconcile our differences, and together, let us heal the diseased condition of the human spirit, of which the Federal Reserve is merely a symptom. Let's come together once and for all, and let's go for it. Thank you.